Boker Tov. I hope you're all well and having a nice week. I want to share with you a story about a holiday coming up in a couple of days, Ba Omer, the 33rd day of the Omer. As you know, we've been counting from Passover to Shavuot, looking forward to the celebration of the receiving of the Torah on Mount Sinai, which is commemorated on Shavuot. Ba Omer is associated with a number of things. One of them is a sage whose name was Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And it's associated with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai because he is purported to have died on Ba Omer, and he said, instead of mourning for me, I want you to rejoice. But there's a story associated with Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai that I think has a lot of wisdom for where we find ourselves, unfortunately, today as a society. It's a story that connects to the whole notion of all the celebrations that happen outside in Israel, on Mount Meron, barbecues, and this you'll see why the story is connected in a moment. The story is found in the Talmud and talks about these three rabbis that are sitting and having a conversation, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And they're talking about the Romans who are in charge and are putting together, society and creating infrastructure and charging all sorts of taxes. And the rabbis are arguing, is this a good thing or a bad thing? And of course, Rabbi Yehuda says, why, this is good. The roads are better, life is improving, so we have to pay some taxes, no big deal. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, they're only in it for themselves. They just want to collect money. They don't really care about us. Sounds like a familiar type of argument, right? What happens? Rabbi Yehuda is elevated to a position of great authority. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is told, run for your life. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai ends up hiding and eventually is told to go hide in a cave where a miracle happens, and he is there. He brought his son Rabbi Elazar with him, and they are there hiding in a cave for 12 years. A carob tree grows, water flows, they have Torah to study, and for 12 years they spend in silent contemplation and studying and having food and nourishment, spiritual and physical and otherwise. One day the Talmud says Elijah is standing at the foot of the cave and says, I think it's time for us to tell Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai he can come out now. The Romans are long gone. The decree against him is not something he has to worry about. And so it's safe for him to come out. So Elijah says, Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, you can come out now. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son come out, and the Talmud says, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is angry at everything he sees. What is this society? Nobody's following the ways of Torah. Nobody's immersed in study. Everybody's doing whatever they want. This is terrible. And fire starts to come out from his eyes and burn everything and destroy everything in his path. This is not good, says the Talmud. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, you're not ready to come out yet. So a divine voice comes forth. God says, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Elazar, you two back in the cave. So they go back into the cave for another year. This time, they come out. Rabbi Elazar, being younger, is still angry. He doesn't understand why people aren't doing things that they are supposed to do, why they're not following the ways of Torah. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai looks everywhere and everywhere he looks, things begin to heal, says the Talmud. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai looks at his son and he says to him, you and I suffice for the entire world. We're engaged in matters of Torah study. We're engaged in trying to do the right thing, what we think is right. Let's not worry so much about what they're doing. Let's not worry so much about being so angry and judgmental. Let's try to be more compassionate and more caring. It's not that we don't think that there's a right way to behave, but let's demonstrate that through our actions and through our study and try and tone down the anger and tone down the self-righteousness. Because if we don't, what's going to happen is fire is going to go forth and everything in our path is going to be burned. And that's what happened the first time. It's a story that I think has a lot of relevance for today. There is so much that is troubling in our society. There's so much toxic anger and hatred out there. There's so much judgment out there. And we can't control all of that, but we can certainly control ourselves. And we can control how we walk in the world. And we can ask ourselves, am I leading in a way with my friends, with my family, with my neighbors, with my coworkers that tries to bring compassion and caring and modeling of behavior that I'd like to see out in the world? Or am I just angry all the time and filled with judgment. Because if it's the latter, we're not headed for anywhere good. So my challenge for us on this Lag BaOmer is to try to learn the lesson that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai learned, to try and lead with more compassion and care and healing and less self-righteousness, judgment, and anger. May we all be up to the task. Enjoy the week, everybody.